Good evening. Welcome to the August the 8th, 2022 City of North Augusta City Council study session. And at this time, I'm going to before I turn it over to Jim Clifford, I do want to recognize we have our House Representative, Mr. Bill Hickson. Nice to have you with us, sir. Thanks for all you do for us. And at this time, I'll turn it over to our City Administrator, Mr. Jim Clifford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I've got a pretty full list of items for you this evening, and we'll try to step through those smartly. You'll also notice that we've changed the batting order. Typically, we do an agenda review, then the focus area, or department details, then the focus area. But based on the ARPA discussion tonight, what we've done is front-loaded the focus area first, then we'll go into department details, and then we'll go into the agenda piece. And before we do that, I would like to take a moment to introduce one of our newest members of the city staff, Miss Jamie Paul, who is sitting to Sharon Lamar's right, your left. Jamie is going to be eventually replacing Sharon as our city clerk, and so as sorry as we are to see Sharon leave, and we'll formally see her off next week, Jamie will be stepping into those very big shoes to fill. And Jamie comes to us, much like Rachel Moody, with a lot of government experience across multiple states, starting in Wisconsin and then Arizona, and then we stole her way through the Aiken County Library System to come work here at the City of North Augusta. So Jamie, welcome aboard, and look forward to working with you here in the future.
Yeah, welcome. Great to see you.
All right, with that, if we can go ahead and tee up the ARPA expenditure request number 3 slideshow. Thank you. Next slide, please. So as background, we've obviously been in receipt as a non-appropriated or non-entitlement unit of government through the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, SLRF. I'll use the term SLRF and ARPA kind of interchangeably here, probably ARPA more likely because it's easier to say. And so we have the allocation set forth by the U.S. Treasury for that amount on the top, and the council has taken 2 previous actions, resolutions 2022-13 and 2022-28 for those 2 specific items, which was very infrastructure focused, both wastewater and water, and that's the majority of the funds that have been allocated out of the ARPA funds to date. And what I have before you today will be the proposed resolutions for distribution number 3. Next slide, please. So I will cover each of these in a little more depth, but this is the overall project list that we have associated with it going forward, and you're going to see the majority of these fund items are going to be skewed towards public safety and also for employee recruitment and retention. So that's the total project list that's for consideration in the study session to be voted on next week. And I'll go ahead and move into the first one if I may. So the council had a couple of study sessions about the Greenway Bridge, and so we know on or about 6th of April of this year, we had a tree came down during a storm and landed on the wooden portion of the bridge that's over by the current public safety headquarters in Waterworks Park, and basically made it a total loss. Tom Zeser did a few presentations, the final one culminating in a recommendation of a 12-foot wide bridge, and asked for council guidance whether that was going to be the arch truss style bridge, which has kind of the rounded piece, kind of like you see over Martintown Road, or more of a box truss bridge. And the council gave us guidance on a 12-foot bridge with the arch truss steel bridge as the preferred design of that. And so our total project cost will not exceed $275,000. And so what I'm seeking to do with this is bundle this with approximately $108,000 left in CPST 1. This would close out CPST 1, and what I've directed Tom Zeser and Linda Williamson to do, if passed, is to take the first set of funds out of CPST 1, and then if we have any residual funds left over, that will roll back into the SLRF or ARPA for other priorities as dictated by the council. And I have that prep for resolution number 2022-36, which is in the agenda review for this evening. So I'll pause for any questions on this one. So for the viewers at home, Mr. Mayor, it's a capital project sales tax. So if you're on the Georgia side of the river, they use SPLOST. For here on South Carolina side, we use capital project sales tax, which is the penny sales tax, which is a voter referendum. And this is a taxpayer approved list of projects that go to the voters, and this was one of the projects that was approved for this list of tax dollars. So what we're trying to do is, by strategy, use ARPA along with other means to stretch out those ARPA dollars, whether that's with grants, whether that's with other fund streams, but to get the most bang for our buck for the SLUR for ARPA is to combine it with other fund streams. And so that's what we're attempting to do through a number of these initiatives that you'll see here this evening.
Very good, thank you.
And how much did you say was in the sale tax?
There's approximately $108,000, Councilwoman, and that's a rolling number because those accounts gain interest, but we're just a little over $108,000 as of this month. Subject to any questions on this one, we'll move to Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. We have two smaller items in this line, and I'll defer to Rachel Moody for this particular line.
Small line items with big impact. We're requesting SLURF funding for two projects. One, the trailer that I think you all are familiar with that is on the country club property. I do believe there was maybe a fire. It's in a very damaged state. Asbestos was found within the roof, and the roof has collapsed in. We've received quotes and advice from professionals, and they recommend a bulk removal of the trailer. For the past couple of years, we've periodically checked in and got our quotes. They have stayed fairly stable. They range anywhere from $15,000 to $23,000. So we've identified a number that we think we can get the trailer removed for prior to moving forward with any development on the country club site. Of course, I think you all know we'll need to remove the trailer first and foremost, not to mention it's an eyesore and it's hazard, you name it. And then we're also requesting $5,000 from SLURF for portable quiet generators. You might also know them as whisper generators. We're requesting these through PRT because as we host community events, whether it's a city event for the public hosted by this department or another department, for example, public safety, when they have any of their outreach events, there's periodically times when we need access to power and it's not built in. We don't necessarily have power all over the amphitheater or Riverside Village, for example. So whether we're using the generators for a community event there, Jack-o'-lantern Jubilee, or frankly, if we were to run into any sort of emergency or incident where any of our departments would need access to, at least for the short term, a generator, we'd have these available. PRT would be the owner and they would loan it out as necessary.
Any questions for Rachel? Okay. We're good, Jim.
Thank you. Next slide, please. I'm going to start right off the bat saying these pictures are not to scale, so the drone is not the same size as the Air and Light service truck. These are, that would be pretty cool if it was, though. These are bundled under public safety, and I have a separate slide to talk a little more in depth about the Air and Light service truck, so I will hold off on that until the following slide. But public safety has advanced a number of requirements, and so some of them have to do with 911 dispatch. And so what you see there on the screen are Motorola consoles. And so the council took a previous action to upfit the department for the updated radios that are handheld and that go inside the vehicles. And the consoles that are inside the 911 dispatch center are dated and old. We're actually getting hand-me-downs, if you will, from Aiken County for the, at least cover us for the next couple of months or years, but we really are in need of additional radio consoles, and so that's part of this package for public safety. The drone comes in handy for a number of different events, and Chief can certainly talk through those. I can tell you when I finished out at the fort, we had an incident on the park, Points West Recreation Center, where Columbia County, Georgia, was able to use a drone based on a standoff with an armed individual, and that was a very useful tool at that point in time, and so I certainly see the requirement for that, and I think Chief can probably even better allocate to why we would need that. And last, we have a speed and display trailer, which can be used to display the speed of a car if it's going down in a neighborhood. So for example, when you have citizens complaining about speeding in their neighborhood, that's one of the things that we can do is put that in the neighborhood and have speed displayed as a precaution before we start doing enforcement. and then also can be used for larger events, as you see there on the screen about putting messages out if a road is closed or if something's going on, that we can go forward and do that. So if you have any questions to anything other than the air and light service truck, I'll go ahead and take those now, or probably more accurately, Chief will.
Would you just, Chief, could you just give, just for folks watching, some examples of how you see yourself using the drone?
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's a great question. One of the things we have to look at is, obviously, this would be shared between fire and police, so it's a public safety component of what we need. In the fire, it would be great because it's got an infrared camera on it that we can kind of take some pictures, get up toward the roof, and look into the maybe the residence or the building to kind of see what our plan of attack is. We've used them. We've seen them used in barricaded suspects, that type of thing. So it's a great tool for us to have, to be able to use. Obviously, we got to do some training. There's some FAA requirements for this to be flown. So we have a pilot who's obviously well-versed in that and has a license, but he'll be training other folks to accompany him in that regard.
Okay. I would think the size of our community and the way things are at this time, not to have one of these is just shocking, quite frankly.
Yes, sir. It's paramount that we get this piece of equipment. Thank you.
Any other questions for Chief?
Yeah, I got one for Chief. On the speed trailer, because some of our complaints are, we have a lot of people speeding through the neighborhood. Well, then when the police goes and sits, you might have two. Would this record like all day, 30 cars went through here at 65 miles an hour?
Yes, ma'am. It'll
So-
give it was
Okay, that way you have a little documentation that they are speeding.
correct. We'll get the data and consume that.
Okay,
and
all
get it
right.
back out. So
Okay.
we'll know exactly what speeds we're traveled at.
Yeah, because a gentleman who wants a four-way stop sign at Courtney, and, that might be beneficial to him,
Yes,
that
ma'am.
it is seeing people speed through there. Thank you.
Jim or Chief, on the, can I ask a question about the truck? I know you said. Oh, you got another one? Okay. That's what I was wondering. You said, I had a question about it, but go ahead.
I have one question for Chief. Do we currently have any speed display? I believe
We don't.
We do not. Okay.
We have an antiquated trailer, council person, and it's one that we have to keep buying and putting money and resources in, so it'd be advantageous getting a new one, more tech.
Thank you.
Next slide, please. Okay. So we have had a previous council discussion. Captain Williams and Chief Thomas previously had come to council during a study session and talked about, the disposition of our apparatus, the location of those apparatus, and as we talked about, future fire station number 4, one of the items that came out that was of concern to the council is that the current service truck that we have, a 1992 model located at Fire Station 2, does not refill the air canisters or the air packs on the scene. And so essentially what that does is it becomes a mule. It brings a number of canisters to the scene, and then once those are spent, then they rush those back to a hard facility to go ahead and fill those up and then bring it back out to the scene. And we actually rely on a volunteer service to sometimes help us out on the ground. And that was something that the council was concerned about. So this is the result of the research that the department has done. And so ultimately we looked at the 3 options, kind of a light, a medium, and a heavy. And so the light option, I believe I sent to the council several weeks ago, which is the TCOM trailer system. We looked at this at Fort Gordon. They have a trailer-mounted system that does a lot of these functions. We like that system. However, a new system for those is about $275,000, and that does not fix the problem of having a 1992 service truck. So it would still need a prime mover to move that trailer to where it needs to go. And so not only would it be the cost of the trailer system, eventually it would be the cost of replacing another service platform within the department. What I've shown you, the picture, and I believe you also have a hard copy handout of some CAD drawings of the Pierce model F550 Light Rescue with the range there of 350 to 400,000, fit a really good niche. And then we also looked at the heavy rescue truck options, and those options were in the 850,000 or above level. And we have other pressing public safety and fire department requirements in the future to include things like an aerial truck. And so I would rather fence some of that money for federal matches if we're so inclined to be able to pursue those. And so the Pierce does the basics and does them well. That vehicle will refill 2 tanks on scene. It will carry a total, I believe, 12 tanks, and it also will be helpful for the department because it has a good lighted apparatus. So on the sides of the truck are lights, and then what you can't see necessarily if you go to the previous slide, I'm sorry, Sharon, what's kind of embedded behind the top there is actually a erectable antenna system or a light bar, which will give really good light to a crash scene, to a crime scene, to a fire, to whatever else. So it really consists of 2 very specific requirements all in one, where you have light and air being able to be brought to a particular scene. Go back or go forward 1 slide, please. We've done research with other departments that have very similar rigs in Georgia. The good news is now that the Municipal Association of South Carolina has partnered with HGAC BUY, that we're able to get HGAC BUY cooperative purchasing pricing on this, which does not require us to do the 3 competitive bids, because we're, by our procurement code, we're allowed to go through cooperative buying purchases, be able to move forward on this apparatus. And the other thing this does for us is helps move the fire department, if you will, into a pure fleet arrangement of having more Pierce fire trucks, so that we're dealing with 1 repair vendor, 1 vendor for service as we go forward, as opposed to kind of the mix of units that we have today. And that'll be a long-standing process to get us there. But as we've talked to other fire departments, in general, you're going to see fire departments that pure fleet with Pierce E1, whatever their preferred model is, are the models that they'll go with. So I will pause for any questions from council, and if you have specific questions about what the truck does or doesn't do, Chief is probably in a better position to answer that than I can. Councilman Presnell.
Okay. So this truck can refill 2 at a time. Is that sufficient? Or does it store extra tanks? Like if you've got 3, 4 firemen in a big fire and they're all in there at the same time, I mean, does it store extra tanks where you can swap them out and then fill
Yes,
the
sir.
old ones?
Yes, sir. It fills 2 at a time. But
Okay.
there'll be extra tanks on the truck itself.
Okay.
Personnel to be used.
And
We'll stay ahead of the game.
And so this is going to roll out to every fire. I mean, that's the plan.
It will get used quite a bit on both sides, as Mr. Clifford's referred to. So it could be in a number of places, and obviously it's a fire apparatus that will be the focus. But if there's an accident at night, if there's a crime scene at night, if there's a missing person, that light tower is going to be invaluable to us. So that's a big part of what we do here at Public Safety, is cross those lines. So it'll be a fantastic piece of equipment for us.
Yeah, I know we had a discussion about the air tanks having to be, what was it, Station 2, where they
That's
can
right.
refill them.
Yes, sir.
And so I just wanted to make sure it's enough, or is there a way to retrofit some of the fire trucks with that, or is it too expensive?
It's probably going to be too expensive
Okay.
for that type of equipment. So this is a right step in the right direction for us.
All right, sounds good, thank you.
Councilman, also to your point, in the research that we've done, I have not come across units that charge more than 2 simultaneously. All of the F550 base systems do 2. The T-Comp trailer system did 2, and even some of the heavy rescues that we looked at, even though they're in a larger chassis, the ones that at least that we saw also did 2 per system. So I think that's going to be based on what we're seeing on the market, and that's going to be likely the stopping point.
I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
I think it's about time we updated public safety with their equipment. They've struggled so many, over the years, they've always been behind everybody else. And the everybody else refers to Aiken County and Augusta. So I think this is a good use of this money, and I think we need to proceed with this. I saw with my own eyes when a house in our neighborhood burned, and the officers, they were taking tanks off and throwing them on the ground, and Belvedere had a truck there that could refill them instead of An officer picking up those tanks and carrying them back to Station 2, he carried them to that truck. And it's a lifesaver. It's a lifesaver for public safety, for anybody that's in that house as well, if they go in to get them. I think this is well worth the money, and it's a great opportunity for public safety. Thank you.
Well said.
All right, we'll move on to the next slide unless there are any other questions. All right, so the next item I have for you is, to put it in layman's terms, really what we're looking at here is 911 dispatch software. The current dispatch software we have was purchased in September of 2011. So we have an 11-year-old 911 dispatching software system, which is well beyond the lifespan of software systems in general. And I would tell you that we have negotiated with the original manufacturer of this system, and they will support only certain components of the system, but not the entire system because it's so aged out, and they're not able to guarantee the work, so to speak. So as we looked at this, and as Chief brought this to my attention, understand that this is going to be a key requirement for the safety of our citizens, and so we looked at some other funding opportunities, and we also looked at different softwares, because SmartCop's not the only brand on the market. There's Motorola, I think there's some others, but I would tell you that in the research that Chief and his team has done, SmartCop is currently being used by the South Carolina Highway Patrol and by the cities that are listed there in that third line. Like the fire truck, it also can be purchased through a cooperative purchasing agreement through HGAC buy. Actually, this came to our attention watching the city of Casey go through this process. MASC in the last conference we went to highlighted this as a success story for the city of Casey, and so we took that and took a serious look at this. Like the Greenway Bridge, I would also propose funding out of CPST 2 and then this ARPA SLURF money. And so under the approved project list for CPST 2, there's an line item called Public Safety Communications System Upgrade, which I believe this fits very neatly into. And so the vast majority of the funding would come from CPST 2. I believe we have about $442,000 sitting in CPST 2. That was lined up against Five Notch Road feasibility study for improvements there, but we didn't have any other funding mechanisms in line to do anything with the feasibility study once the feasibility study was done. And my recommendation as we go on this, that if I had to pick a way to move forward on CPST2, this is the more urgent need, at least for our citizens. So by doing this, this would close out CPST2, take an additional $50,000 out of ARPA or SLURF to close out that project, and then we would be able to close this out and move forward with new software. And that's also in the packet for this evening with resolution number 2022-37.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Will the current Motorola radios be compatible with this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's go on to the next one. Last but not least, we have a supplemental employee compensation. And so within the ARPA line, there's a $500,000 set aside, and that purpose is for retention and recruitment. So as we're seeing in city government and local government right now, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics at the federal government, we're seeing about a 21% turnover rate in state and local governments, excluding education, in the year 2021. So that's a problem that a number of municipalities and counties are having right now. What we saw here within the state is the state of South Carolina did a $1,500 incentive to the state employees. We looked at the city of Beaufort. We looked at some other cities in the upstate. And so what we're seeing here is consistent with those kinds of incentive packages. And so when I say that the one-time distribution has some exceptions, that's really for the elected officials, that's for the city administrator and the assistant city administrator and our judges. All their full-time employees would be covered, and that includes employees that are in a probationary status. As they start, they would not draw that $1,750 until their probationary period was completed successfully. and then they would be eligible for that. And then we also set aside a one-time distribution of $250 for the part-time employees. And I've asked for our initial payments to go out no later than the 30th September of this year. And so anybody coming off probation throughout the rest of the year would draw their one-time payment at that point in time. And so if you add that up, understanding this is a moving number because it's based on the total number of employees that you have on the books at the passage of this resolution to include the window of time up until we send out the checks, we're looking at approximately $460,000 would be used by that one-time payment, and then the residual, roughly $40,000, would be at my discretion as the administrator to apply that against recruitment and retention programs as yet to be determined, but some of the examples that we're thinking about now are on the screen to include adding money to the college tuition reimbursement program, which we're starting to get some good headway on this year. We have a number of our employees taking advantage of that. There are some costs associated with recruiting videos. That's certainly something we'd like to do both for public safety and for our utilities and Parks and Rec, for recruiting materials and potentially recruiting monetary incentives. And the cap on that would be the total of $500,000, and that would expire in December of 2024, which is laid out in the resolution before you, which is Resolution 2022-38.
Just make sure people are clear, so this is not tied anything with employees' pensions. We pay FICA, then they're going to pay their regular tax, and they'll net the difference, right?
That's correct, sir. This is a one-time payment, so we will not be removing retirement pay, the 9% retirement pay out of that pay. The city will pay its share of FICA, but then the standard deductions, whatever those are for the individual employees based on state and federal, will be removed from that payment. So what they will get in their hand is not exactly $1,750. It'll be $1,750 minus their state and federal taxes.
But that's still a substantial amount. This is a solid piece of money people will be getting. This is good.
And Mr. Mayor, and for council members, the reason why we went with this potential option really as a flat rate payment is really to disproportionately benefit our lower compensated employees. So we got a lot of folks out there that are doing a lot of work, and we want to make sure that we're taking care of them to the best of our ability. And I think this does so in a good fashion.
Good job. Any questions for Jim?
No questions. I mean, I'll just chime in and say I think this is great. It's, obviously doesn't solve a longer term employee compensation issue that we're going to have to figure out how to resolve. And I know y'all are working on it and are going to come with recommendations on that, but it's something. And for what we're using these funds for, the public safety equipment in this are I'm excited about. I think they're great.
Jim. I mean, I kind of echo what Kevin was saying. I mean, it's a great start. We've got to whatever. Are there any, I don't know how to say this, but strings attached? I mean, like, can somebody get it and then quit the next day? Or, because I know a lot of times they'll do retention bonuses. Like my wife, they'll give her a retention bonus, but she's got to stay for the whole year in order to get it. Is anything like that in there?
Councilman, the way we've structured this does not have a residual, if you will. The only time constraint has to do with the employees that are on their probationary status. So when they finish their 6-month probationary status, they would be eligible for the payment. What we didn't want to do is disproportionately affect employees that worked through the coronavirus in 2021, but then had retirement plans this year, and then throw that off their overall plans. All right, we can go to the next slide. So again, this is the slide you previously saw. So this is the kind of the totals that are before you for each of those projects. Next slide. And then what I'll show you there is really the kind of the bank account, if you will, of what's in SLRF. So that's the initial distribution that we've been allocated. The council's previously approved requests 1 and 2. And then if request number 3 is approved, then that would leave $3.4 million, give or take, into SLRF. And we have a number of projects that we're already researching. Some of them are in infrastructure, specifically stormwater, but we did not have the costing data to be able to go forward on that. And then I'm also trying to build the plan such that there is flexibility for the council to be able to make decisions with the remainder of that money based on council's discretion of projects that they feel are important. Next slide, please. So subject to your questions from the council members, that's the ARPA presentation for this evening.
Very good, Jim. Rachel, staff, very well done. Any questions?
Well, I think next up on the agenda is we have Georgia DOT has come to talk about the 13th Street Bridge project, which I know is of high interest to the council and our citizens. So I'm excited to welcome the team here today from Atlanta, talk a little bit about the project that's before us.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, if you would just state your name and address for the record.
Sure. It's Erin Murphy, and my address is 328 Georgia Avenue, Atlanta, Georgia 30312. And I'm Erin Murphy. I'm from VHB. We are part of the Parsons team that's working with Georgia DOT on the SR4 US 25 Business 13th Street, Georgia Avenue bridge replacement over the Savannah River. I put there? There we go. So just to introduce the team, I've got with me Norman Lopez, who is the GDOT project manager. I've also got Rajiv Shah, who is the design project manager from Parsons. My name is Erin Murphy. I'm the environmental lead from VHB, and I've also got Laurel Corral from my team who's supporting me on the environmental on this project. And what you can see on your screen is a rendering of what the bridge will look following construction. So why are we here today? We're here to provide you guys with a project update. We've been working really closely with the team here at the city since the beginning of 2018, talking about this project and really hearing from the local officials here at the City of North Augusta about their, y'all's needs here in the community for this project. We also specifically would like to discuss with you project impacts. There are going to be impacts to 3 North Augusta facilities. Those include the North Augusta Greenway, Brick Pond Park, and Waterworks Park. We have also, as the project design has progressed, we have identified that there will need to be some trail detours during construction. So we want to talk to you guys about that and get your feedback on that. We also need to request concurrence from the city for a finding of no adverse effect under Section 4F, and I'll get into that a little bit more. And then we also want to share with you guys the ongoing public involvement and public notice process that's been ongoing with the project. So to share a little bit more about the proposed bridge replacement, again, we're replacing the bridge between Augusta and North Augusta. This is a Georgia DOT project, and as I mentioned, we've been working really closely with the City of North Augusta, the City of Augusta. We've been working with Georgia DOT, South Carolina DOT, Georgia Federal Highway, South Carolina Federal Highway, the Corps of Engineers on both the Georgia and South Carolina side. So we've been really coordinating closely with stakeholders throughout this process. The new bridge would have 4 travel lanes. There would be an 11-foot inside lane in each direction and a 12-foot outside lane in each direction. There would be an 8-foot wide median as you approach the bridge, and then the bridge itself would have a 4-foot raised median in the middle. The northbound side would have a 5-foot sidewalk, as well as urban shoulders and curbs. On the southbound side, we would have a 10-foot shared use path. It would have an 8-foot shoulder, and it would be barrier separated from the roadway. And that is really the thing that's really come out of all of this local coordination is the desire for that multi-use trail. We also would have a new trail connection that would connect Georgia Avenue to the existing North Augusta Greenway, and I'm going to show you all a video in just a minute of what that would look like. The total project length is 0.65 mile, and construction is currently scheduled to begin in 2025. And this, just as a visual, is the typical section of what the bridge would look like. So you can see the shared use path, which again is separated from the travel lanes with that barrier. We've got the 12-foot outside lanes, the 11-foot inside lanes, and there would still be a sidewalk on the opposite side. So now we're going to go to the video. And all the council members, you guys have the brochures, and that has a QR code on it that will take you to the Georgia DOT Public Outreach website where you can watch this video as well as some other renderings that we've done for the project. So what you're looking at is y'all can see the building that we are in right now on the screen. And so this is a connection that would, on the north side of Georgia Avenue, provide access from that multi-use trail down to the tunnel at the North Augusta Greenway. Show it on your screen.
What out there, Ricky?
Yeah. That's right. Yes, that's the existing gravel path through Brick Pond Park. Yeah, so the connection would essentially run along the roadway, and then it would come down to connect right there by the tunnel where the North Augusta Greenway goes under the road at this time. And again, y'all have the QR code on those brochures. So there's this video is on that website, as well as some of the other great and wonderful renderings of the project. So I mentioned that we were here to ask for your concurrence of our finding of no adverse effect under Section 4F. So Section 4F of the U.S. DOT Act, it protects publicly owned parks and recreation areas, and you guys may have dealt with this on previous projects. But under 4F, in order to use that federal money, we have to prove that there is no prudent or feasible alternative to using public park space, or we need to say that it is not adverse. We do not want to do a Section 4F evaluation because they're both expensive and very, very, require a lot of delays, and we'd like to deliver this project as quickly as possible. But again, if we have a no adverse effect finding, that would be de minimis under Section 4F, and that would allow Federal Highway to proceed with authorizing the funds for this project. So our purpose, again, is to get that no adverse effect determination. We have provided the City of North Augusta with a draft letter that would allow us to do that, and that would allow the project to proceed. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about the details of what those impacts are.
If I could, real quick, we have on the 18th, the agenda for the 18th next week, a resolution for you all to consider approving for the mayor to sign that de minimis letter that she just referred to. So any questions that you have about this process or the trail impacts, please be sure to ask them while she's here. That way next week, when we consider the resolution, you've got everything, all the info you need.
I've got some questions about the video you show, but I'll wait till you go through everything.
Sure. Okay, so This is a map that shows the impacted trails and parks here in North Augusta. So as you can see, the North Augusta Greenway, of course, runs along the river. There's a small stretch that is actually south of the bridge. And of course, the connection through Brick Pond Park, that gravel pathway that we were talking about, as well as the very small corner where Waterworks Park intersects the trail system near the tunnel. So those are the parks and trails in North Augusta that we've identified as being within our project area. So this is a layout of the project. So this shows you what the project is going to look like, and also allows you to have a perspective on the required right-of-way. So as you can see, along Georgia Avenue, you can see where that trail connection would connect in to the North Augusta Greenway right near where the existing tunnel is. You can see that we would require a small amount of right-of-way there from Brick Pond Park. So we would require 0.1 acre of right-of-way, 0.13 acre of permanent easement, and that's really required due to drainage in that area. Same thing at Waterworks Park, we would require 0.09 acre of right-of-way, and again, that's to tie in the new bridge in that area. As y'all might be familiar with, there's some very steep slopes in that area. And then from the North Augusta Greenway, we would require 0.14 acre of right-of-way, 0.09 acre of permanent easement, and 0.14 acre of temporary easement. Again, in order to reconstruct the bridge at its existing location and add that multi-use trail, it is necessary to have some required right-of-way, and we also require some easement in order to, again, construct the bridge in its existing location. The design team has a lot of need for staging, and Rajiv can answer more specific questions about this, but this is just to give you a perspective on the very small amounts of right-of-way and easement that we would require. Next slide. So in summary, the construction requirements would be very small, about a third an acre of right-of-way, almost a quarter of acre of permanent easement, and 0.15 acre of temporary easement. But this project would not in any way prevent the North Augusta Greenway, Brick Pond Park, or Waterworks Park from continuing in their existing recreational uses. It would actually really enhance greatly the use of these park facilities by connecting them to each other, as well as providing improved access to the city of Augusta across the river. So we really think that this would be a great benefit to the park system. In addition, we have identified as the project design has progressed that we will require trail detours. And as I'm sure y'all could see from the graphic, because the trail systems are so close to the existing bridge, it's just simply impossible to construct a bridge at its existing location safely without having some trail detours. So the connection across Georgia Avenue would always be maintained at the existing tunnel, but all other locations between the tunnel and the river would be closed for approximately 4 years to pedestrians and cyclists. And again, as you guys are aware, it's a very long bridge, and deconstructing it and reconstructing it with everyone's safety in mind, it is really important that we close those areas. And I'm about to show you guys a map of the detour routes. Again, access would always be provided to the trail system. There's a lot of a dense network of connections in this area, so there's a lot of alternative routes for people to choose from. Most of the detour routes would actually be shorter than the existing routes. The existing route, brings you down along the river, which is very beautiful, but it's not actually the shortest, unless you're traveling to the landing at River Club neighborhood. So the next slide shows the routes. So in blue, you can see the existing routes. All of the area that you see in orange would actually be closed during construction. The red is our planned detour route. But of course, we're just recognizing that there's a lot of other trails in this area, particularly in the Brick Pond Park area. So there would be additional barriers for safety to keep people from trying to get onto the closed trails from that area. But of course, everything you're seeing in yellow would remain open. There would just be a barrier at Georgia Avenue to keep people away from the bridge construction for their safety.
So if I'm at the landing, how do I can't get on the Greenway except going all the way up the road?
Yeah, yes. Yes, so that they are gonna be detoured. We're still working closely on the
tunnel won't be open for that.
the tunnel up at the Greenway Tunnel will be open.
Oh, for the land, okay.
Yes. But they will have to go all the way up there, yes.
I got a quick question. I mean, we've got the roundabout right there at East Shoreline where it meets Railroad. Is that roadway going to be closed off?
We have been continuing to work, and Rajiv can answer that question a little bit, about managing the traffic in the area on Railroad Avenue. That was a question that was raised by the staff of the city, and that's something we're continuing to work on.
Okay. Because, I mean, with the detour in place, I understand, but I mean, if the road's open, they could walk down the road and just as easily go underneath the bridge if that's the case.
Absolutely, and that's actually another concern that your staff raised also was concern about, keeping people from making, not the greatest of decisions possibly, and accessing the construction site.
Okay, thank you.
Quick question, underneath the bridge there, we have our Pottery Park
Yes.
facility. How's that going to be impacted?
We have a special provision that would be part of the construction contract, and so it would be temporarily relocated during construction and then replaced. And the contractor would be required to ensure its safety. Right, I think we can move on to the next slide then. So we have been outreaching extensively with the public. So as I mentioned, we've been having extensive stakeholder meetings with key stakeholders and key members of the community, starting back in 2018 all the way through the present. We had a public information open house back in summer of 2021. After we identified these trail detours as being an additional impact, we have been doing additional outreach. So we have produced this brochure, which you guys have a copy of, and the goal of that was to inform the public about these trail detours. So you may have noticed that there have been some kiosks set up at the trail system, and that was providing the public with a copy of this brochure, as well as a sign that allowed them to go to the website. We had updated the information on the GDOT website. We've been working with the City of North Augusta to get it up on their website, as well as City of Augusta website. We emailed this information to everybody who commented at the PIOH, as well as key stakeholders that we identified, like the Friends of the North Augusta Greenway and the Augusta Trail Runners Club. So we've been working to really engage with the public so that they're aware of this, as well as those kiosks at the trail. And the public has been invited to contact local officials with concerns between July 11th, when we first got this information out, and August 11th. So that will be the end of the comment period. And the goal is to provide information. The de minimis finding, again, is really the city's decision. And so that's to provide you guys with support and guidance in making that decision to know how the public feels about it.
Where exactly are the kiosks, and is that temporary? Will they stay up until construction?
No, they are temporary kiosks. So on the North Augusta side, we have one at the parking area there at Waterworks Park and the Greenway Trail, because that seemed like a hot spot that people would park there and then access the Greenway. And then we also have one basically at the stadium and the river, that corner there, because that's where we're going to block it off. And we figured people would be coming there, would be the people that would be the most impacted. But those will come down here in the middle of August because our public notice period will have closed. But all of the information will remain available on the GDOT website for the life of the project.
Thank you.
And I think that was my last slide. So we're just ready for any questions. Any additional questions or comments?
I do. Go back, just explain to me, because I want to make sure the video you showed looks different than what I saw on the animated video. So just explain to me again. I want to make sure we're clear about this. So DOT is paying for this bridge. So the video you showed on the north side, okay, going down, that is part of the DOT funding to make that happen?
Norman is really the person to better speak to the funding.
I know we took the steps off on the south side.
Yes.
And that's gonna, sidewalks can go all the way into the parking lot where Highlander is, those sidewalks there, but we show that video, and I just want to make sure.
No, there is additional local funding that is being applied to this project in order to provide for some of
That's
these
what it's
additions.
for that piece.
Yes.
Yeah, so Georgia, I just want to make sure, Georgia DOT, that's what I'm saying, that's the part that right now, you're showing it, but y'all are not doing that, that's falling on us.
That is my understanding. Is that right? That's right?
Okay. So I thought, I just wanted to make sure, I just hadn't seen that video like that. I don't think everybody's aware of that, so.
Yeah, I'm Rajiv Shah. I'm the design project manager from Parsons.
Yeah, welcome.
Hey, initially, we had considered the trail connection as part of the local funding. However, once we figured out that if we do not provide these trail connections, there would not be a two-way access through the shared use path, because people need to go out and also come in. So that's the reason we decided that this trail connection will continue to be part of the DOT's project scope. So it would not be considered as an additional local funding.
Say that to me one more time. Okay, make sure, say that again, I want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Sure. So
The video you showed,
the video I showed for the trail, or Erin showed, for the trail connection to the, of the North Augusta Greenway, or trail connection to the North Augusta Greenway, under the culvert at Georgia Avenue, will be considered as part of the DOT scope of work, because unless we provide this connection, there would not be a two-way facility of the shared use path.
so the north side is what I'm talking about, what you're showing here.
Yeah. Can
Okay.
you do me a favor? Can you go back to the slide?
Okay.
Okay.
Different than what I thought, okay. Go ahead, Ms. Clifford.
So, Ms. Shaw, from, at least from my chair as city administrator, what is the current expectation from Georgia DOT on South Carolina funding? I know that we have committed to funding for lighting aspects of the bridge jointly with the state of Georgia for both upper and under lighting. And then are there other funding requirements that exist for any of the sidewalk connections or for any of the Greenway connections there? And if so, what are those funding requirements?
It will
That's what I'm
help me
trying
if
to
I
get
we
at.
go back to that screen. Sure, yes. So currently, if you see, the project limit from a roadway perspective is shown on the dark gray with the striping being shown. So that was our overall project limit. However, based on the request coming from City of North Augusta to provide that sidewalk connection from that point onwards to the existing sidewalk will be considered as part of the local funding.
Yeah, that's the south side.
That's the south side. I
Yeah,
understand.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah,
I knew
know,
that
know.
part.
I
I'm
was
good with
answering-
that.
I was answering.
Okay,
the
good.
question
Okay,
related
okay,
to
good.
that. Now, if you see,
Yeah, I see it. Right? Yep. Sure.
travel.
Right.
So if I need to provide an access to the bicyclist, I need to continue this trail connection all the way and connect it to this greenway. So that is the reason we figured out that, well, we cannot ask the local to fund that connection because it needs to be part of the project because you need to provide the two-way access.
Is it illegal for me to send you a Christmas card?
I was about to say, I think I got an early birthday present on that one.
So,
Okay, good, thank you. That, because
But
that's
is
the
that-
first that I knew about that, okay.
but is the city funding requirement then, or the South Carolina funding requirement then, is to be able to partner with you all for the sidewalk completion in that gray zone?
Yes.
And then do you have costing data on what that looks like?
Yes, we do have the costing data, but I don't have it in front of me. We are also finalizing the lighting, preliminary lighting design and the photometric calculations to submit to GDOT. So once we have submitted, we will have preliminary lighting cost associated with it, and we can submit overall draft cost to the city to understand what is the expectations from the local to fund this project.
Rajiv, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Once the shared use path has been installed, the project is complete, to whom are you turning that over? Is that South Carolina DOT or City of North Augusta?
For the trail connection?
Yes, the shared use path that connects.
That's a good question.
Okay, we're still
That's-
working on that?
That is a question for GDOT in
Okay.
terms of how they want to maintain. It could be depending on how the locals want. Also, if the locals want to maintain that connection, they can. GDOT would only use the shared use path part of the bridge and not the trail connection. But
Are we the locals that you're referring to? Okay,
only for this trail connection,
okay, yep,
because this is on the South Carolina side.
okay.
So that is what I'm referring to. So yeah, so that is a discussion between the locals and the GDOT
Okay,
that you guys can identify in terms of, or you can determine based on request email to the GDOT PM. Norman Lopez is the GDOT PM on the project, and through him that coordination can
okay. We'll be in touch, Norman.
So on the other side of the street, it's just going to be a sidewalk connection all the way up to our existing sidewalk.
that is correct.
And that's all part of the funding that y'all are going to do as well?
No, that's on us.
No. Okay. Uh-huh.
And any walls associated, because considering the fact that when we are extending the sidewalk because of the 2:1 slope, we need to have a retaining wall to avoid the impacts to that parking of the water works. And if we do impact it, then it gets into the section 4F.
we did not want to do.
So we don't want to do that, so we are just trying to minimize the overall impacts to the parking lot over there. So that
Okay.
is the reason, the cost associated with that would be
Okay.
part of the.
So we're responsible for getting it funded from the end of this road designation you have here, all the way up to the connector. Okay.
Is that on both sides of the road?
No.
Just-
We are ending the sidewalk on the other side over here where we are shooting. So that is part of yes. So because that is very close to the limit of the pavement that we are tying in.
Okay.
Let's consider this.
So for the council members and from the city staff perspective, we'll work with GDOT and, Parsons' crew to figure out what the funding line would look like for that sidewalk connection to basically bring the bridge into, the sidewalk that's right by the Highlander, and figure out what that cost is associated with that and the retaining wall or whatever else that looks like. And that looks like that would be our portion, aside from other lighting considerations that we have coming our way.
Very nice. Thank you for that explanation. Appreciate it.
Could I ask, I don't know if this is a engineering question. I mean, I know this is more about the trail closures, but I'm more, we just had I-20 done, and y'all have done a pretty good job on that. How is this going to work? When they did I-20, they built a center section first before they started dismantling one side. And where's the laydown yard for all the material going? And is it going to be one lane over and coming through until this is done? I just wanted to get an idea.
That's a good question.
Sure. So we would be maintaining one lane in each direction. Right now, there are 2 lanes in each direction, so 1 lane in each direction would be maintained. We are also providing a detour route, which was part of the website. It basically uses US 1 and connects not 520.
Correct.
Gordon Highway.
Gordon
Highway.
And then,
And then you
loop
could
back.
always do Riverwatch, to I-20, it's
Yeah,
just,
but we designated that as an official detour route. People will take whatever they want to take. So that will be figured out in that sense. From a construction perspective, we will be constructing in stages. So stage 1 will be constructing the portion which is towards the condominium.
okay.
The part of the reason being that because there is an existing sidewalk on the north side,
Good
And
point.
we have to maintain, based on federal ADA guidelines, to keep the existing pedestrian facilities during construction. So that's the reason we needed to keep that sidewalk open and build, and also it helps us, based on the structural geometry of the bridge, that it helps us cut the bridge for the portion which is on the condominium side. Build that portion first, move the traffic back one lane in each direction to the newly build
Right.
the other side, and then basically
Okay.
finish the bridge.
And so it'll be similar to I-20 where they're just laying the materials right there on the lanes they're not using and do it in stages,
No.
like you said.
So, fortunately, we don't have. For everyone. Let's see. Okay. So this is the laydown area. So if you, which is on the Georgia side.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's
it's
the
on
old
Georgia side.
golfing
Yeah.
garden.
So
Okay.
this is where the cyber center is there.
Right.
So this area was used to construct the phase 1 and phase 2.
Right.
So that will be primarily our laydown area on the Georgia side. However, we have requested, the city owns some property in here by the landing drive. And we have requested some temporary easements within that city property. Part of the reason being that we need to construct this bridge using barges because it's over the river. Now, if we need to bring the barges over, we can use this area to create an elevated section where we can launch the barge from. However, in case we do need to construct a portion from the South Carolina sites, we are considering temporary areas where we can either deliver material or see opportunities where we can provide the contractor an option to launch their barges from there. So it is over here as well as over here,
Okay.
where we are considering. But the primary area that we will be using will be on the Georgia side.
Okay. And one other question. We have a lot of recreational boating, kayaks, whatever, on this river during the summer. I know, unlike I-20, it's, unless it's just a canoe or kayak, but you have power boats, coming here. Is this going to be, are they taking the pylons out of the river? They reusing the existing ones? And will it close off any traffic? Is there going to be any warning? Unfortunately, not everybody pays attention, and you'd hate for them, especially if they're going to do like they did at I-20 and build, I'm not sure the term for it, when they surround.
Cofferdams.
Cofferdams, yeah. If they build those, you may have somebody not paying attention and run into it.
Right. So that would be more provided as special provisions in the contract when the GDOT lets this project, in terms of what would be a requirement from a closure perspective or a temporary closure. Most of the things would be done during the night to avoid any impacts to the recreational users.
Okay.
But it is our understanding that because these are bridges which have spans, and these are 170 feet concrete spans or 250 steel spans, which will be considered as part of this project. So they would be wider span, and while they are constructing the piers or the foundation for each spans, there would be enough space to use from a recreational boating perspective.
Okay.
So I'm sure that there would be signs, there would be flags, whatever the contractors
Okay.
generally provide. It would be part of the special provisions which GDOT will include as part of the contract for the contractors to construct.
Okay, good.
And they will be taking the existing vents will be coming out of the river. That is a requirement
Yes.
from the Corps of Engineers.
Yes.
So we do have to take them out.
Okay.
Wow.
We cannot reuse the existing
Yeah, we have to
piers
take them
and
out.
their foundation.
Well, there's
Wow.
a lot of
Okay.
people, unless you boat, you don't realize. I mean, when I was a kid, when Georgia Avenue was widened, I remember when it was a 2-lane, but I mean, if you go under there, you can see there are 2 different ones that are 2 different sizes and 2 different materials. So I think that's good that they're going to take it down and do it correctly.
Will this also be affected with that training wall that's in that section? Will that
It-
come
there-
down? Is there a
It's
section?
not in that section, no. It's down, it starts around the River Club and goes all the way to River
Okay.
North, so it's south of there.
So I had two other questions. One of them was, what about special events like the Ironman and so forth? Is that going to be affected in this path?
Again, that would be coordinated with the locals. So we have already coordinated with the locals in terms of the Augusta National.
Uh-huh.
So we would be not doing any construction 1 week before, during, and 1 week after. So there would be stoppage of any construction activities during that time frame. But if there are any specific requests the locals want to provide for any other events that should be considered as part of the contract,
Okay.
you can always reach out to Georgia Department of Transportation.
So the people that organize that probably need to get a hold of y'all. One other question, I get asked this all the time. You stated in your document that the 2025 is the projected time to start. What is the duration time?
4 years.
4 years. And then the other question is, that I get asked all the time is, how does this coordinate with the I-20 bridge? Will that be completed before this one started, or what?
I'm not aware of the I-20 schedule. DDOT would be able to.
That is in fact the case, is that I-20 is supposed to be done before this gets started. Yeah.
Okay, because I get that question all the time. And
I think that was some of the vision behind the.
yeah, I think so. I mean, I was told that before, that this one wouldn't start until that one was completed. So, okay.
Rick, this is a question for you. Any of this right-of-way that they're needing to get from the Greenway, the Brick Pond Park, or Waterworks, do we have any restrictions, dedication of that for recreational usage?
Y'all do not have any 6F issues.
Okay.
We checked into it very thoroughly. Y'all have a lot of 6F funding in various places, so I can know why you're asking that question.
All right.
Yeah, we don't want to.
Any other questions for these folks? All right, very nice, thank you. Appreciate your time coming tonight.
I can provide just a little bit of context. In the presentation, she referenced residents should contact their elected officials if they had any questions or concerns. That's what spurred the survey that was posted and that you all have in your study session packet. To date, we've just received the 4 responses that are provided for you. On the city's homepage, there is an article that provides the video that was shown back, additional background information, and a link to the GDOT site with all the public information. I'll leave that there. I won't take that down so folks can access that at any time. The survey is posted on our site. It's a survey that we created in-house, and I'll leave it up through the end of the week, but otherwise that'll be removed because the comment period is related specifically to the resolution that you all will consider on Monday related to the de minimis letter.
Very good. Thank you, Rachel.
All right, Mr. Mayor and Council, if we can, we'll press into department details, and we'll be led off by Linda Williamson for Finance.
Good evening. I'm short tonight. Well, I have a short amount of information tonight. Our Cycle 1 customers will have their disconnects scheduled for August 17th and August 18th, and our Cycle 2 customers have a due date on August 18th. And that is all I have for y'all tonight.
Thanks. Next, we'll have
Thank you,
James
Linda.
from Public Services.
Good evening. We had a real good day today. We got power restored to the material recovery facilities warehouse. So we got lights, and we'll be able to start baling product, and we'll be able to pick up some production from this point further with that.
Fantastic.
In the same, we've dismantled 90% of the damaged equipment from the fire, and we anticipate by week's end we'll be completed with the removal of the remaining conveyor system that was in there that needs to be taken out, and a couple other items, and then we'll get into the scrubbing and the cleanup process and have everything ready to go for the new equipment to be reinstalled. And with that said, we anticipate having the spec package out by hopefully Friday, the latest Monday, for the tip and floor building and the process equipment. And we have been talking with a lot of builders and equipment manufacturers, and some are sharing information with us that we ought to have everything installed and hopefully back up and running within 4 to 6 months.
Very good, James. Thank you.
Moving on in utilities, Clay Street Pump Station, y'all a while back approved funding at ARPA to move forward with replacement of that age system. Had a conversation today with AECom, and they're anticipating having surveyors and soil samples on site within the next couple to 3 weeks. The prefab design of the building's primarily complete, about 90%, I'd assume, and hopefully we'll have some activity on there no later than the first of the year as well.
Very good. Thank you, James.
Thanks, James. Next, followed by Tommy from Planning and Development.
Mr. Mayor, the Development Code Rewrite Committee meets Thursday, August the 11th at 5:30. We have the kickoff meeting for the Georgia Avenue traffic calming on Tuesday, August the 16th. And then the next Planning Commission meeting is Wednesday, August 17th.
Thank you, Tommy.
Okay, just a couple things from public safety. Here I am. Citizens Academy will begin on Tuesday, September the 13th. We're still looking for people to sign up. We've got a few. Our own David McGee was a valedictorian of that class we had. But we hadn't had one in a couple years, so because of COVID, but kicking that back off in September.
And just to remind everybody that application is online, right?
Yes, sir. It is. It's online on our website. Also, the department is currently working on a revision to that record policy that we, I think you had some questions about that, so we'll be bringing that back through Mr. Clifford to share with you, and we'll go over that, I assume, in a study session.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's important.
Thanks, Chief. Next, we have Rick from PRT.
Eaton Contracting began paving the Riverview Park 1.2 mile trail today. In fact, they got half of it done. So if we have any luck tomorrow, they'll have the other half done and we will be open for business. Registration for fall sports, youth football, cheerleading, soccer, and volleyball is now underway. It goes through August the 20th. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rick.
Next, we'll have Tom from Engineering and Public Works.
Also short tonight. As you can read, we were authorized by SCDOT to advertise the Knob Cone Sidewalk project for bids last Thursday afternoon. By Friday, we had it advertised on the city website and in the South Carolina Business Opportunities newsletter. We've already received a handful of requests from contractors interested in the project, so hopefully we'll have a good turnout from bidders on this project, and that bid date is August 30th. We are required to have a minimum of 21 calendar day or 21 business days by the state to keep those bids open for. So August 30th, we will hopefully have a good update for you.
Thank you, Tom.
Tom, one quick thing. On Knob Cone making turn on to Courtney. Now, I don't know if it has to do with the AT&T people there, but there is a big hole now. I ran over it the other day, like I thought it knocked my tires off. So I don't know who put that, because they had a orange cone and all by it last week, a week before, but it is a huge hole and nothing's over it or anything. But, you know, like if you're on Knob Cone, making the left, right to Courtney.
Not Curtis?
Not Curtis, Courtney.
Okay. I'll look into it.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Last but not least, JD from HR.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just the usual. We have our jobs that are posted this week as the update. Just want to let everyone know who's watching online that we update our jobs every Friday, and that's at northaugusta.sc.gov/jobs. This Friday we'll be advertising a planning tech for planning and development. Will be our new job that I'm aware of today. And just want to take a moment to thank you, Mayor and Council, as well as administration, for always making employees a priority at the City of North Augusta. So thank you.
Thanks for what you do, JD.
With that, Mr. Mayor and Council, we're going to move into the item which we normally do first, which is the council agenda for the following week. So these are the items that we'll have on the plate for you next Monday. And unfortunately, you'll have two items 5 and 6, which are retirements for Sharon Lamar and Kim Newcomb, respectively. I know you all had some words to say at the city council meeting for both those stellar employees, but it's a huge hit to the city to lose both of them in that short amount of time. But we wish them both well, and we thank them for their years of faithful and dedicated service to the citizens of North Augusta.
Yes, we do.
With that, we'll move to item 7, under City Code Ordinance Number 2022-13, to amend Section 2-36, regular meeting days of the Code of Ordinances for the City of North Augusta, to provide for the cancellation of the first meeting in April in the event such meeting comes during the week of the Masters Golf Tournament ordinance first reading. And I'm going to kick this over to our city attorney, Kelly Zier, based on his feedback for this particular action.
Okay, this is something that we generally kind of talk about every other April, somewhere along the way when we realize that the council meeting's Masters Week. The state law requires that we have one council meeting a month. By ordinance, we've provided for 2, and we have provided for a meeting to be canceled if it falls on a holiday. Other than that, we've had to hold the meeting, and probably the Masters Monday meeting is the lowest attended by citizens and council, and at times, and so we've talked about it, and this would just allow us to, if the meeting falls during the week of the Masters, it would be automatically canceled. Now, obviously, if you had something that needed to be dealt with, you can always schedule a special meeting for specific items. So we would be able to take care of that situation if it arose.
Very good. Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly. Moving on to item 8, under Planning and Development, ordinance number 2022-14, to approve the general development plan for the 51.85 plus or minus acre Bluegrass Place plan development on East Martintown Road and East Buena Vista, ordinance first reading. So to orient the council and our citizens, this is a 50-ish acre piece of property that's near the school and sits between Buena Vista and Martintown, not too far from the current public safety headquarters and courts facility. This has been discussed in previous study sessions. There was a discussion previously about access to the road by the school, and then there have been some discussions about the overall development plan. We had this removed from a previous agenda. This was supposed to be reviewed at the same time as Highland Springs. Upon request of the applicant, we removed that from the agenda to be brought forward again here in the study session, really for them to be able to kind of highlight what it is they're seeking to achieve. And I know we had some previous questions about the single-family occupancy dwellings, and they're here to be able to talk through any of your questions. So this is your opportunity as a council to deal with the developers that are here in the audience tonight to go through. And Mr. Mayor?
I just want to say, so we actually approved the general development plan on March the 7th. So the reason they're coming back to us because of a change they want to make on the development plan, correct? Okay, guys.
Tommy says yes.
For folks watching, I just wanted to make sure we have approved it initially, and now they're coming back, so great.
Sharon Lamar has handed out hard copies that we received this evening here inside the council chambers. We do not have a display to put up, but we have there in front of you is the hard copy. And I will defer to the developers.
Gentlemen, good to see you. If
How's
you
everybody?
would just, great, thank you for being here. If you don't mind, when each of you speak, if you just state your name and address for the record,
Be
please.
glad to, sir. Philip Wilson, 118 Sorrento Drive, Greenville, South Carolina.
You said Philip?
Philip, or Phil.
Philip, okay, thank you.
And
And I'm Steve Mudge. I live at 139 Folger Street in Clemson, South Carolina.
All right, Steve, nice to have both of y'all with us.
there's actually 3 components to the plan. One is the garden-style multifamily. Steve will speak to any questions or that you may have on that. And the other 2 products is single-family detached homes of approximately 34 units and some 4-story townhomes that I can answer any questions on. And I do apologize. We rarely, but sometimes we stub our toe. I thought it was understood that the single family, the townhomes would be a rental type. And that didn't get communicated well, and I apologize. I thought we got it right the first time, but I guess we'll give it one more shot. So, if I could, I got some, I'm gonna load you up with some paper if you don't mind.
You'll just give that young lady right there, Sharon can give them to us.
And if it's good with the council, I'll let Steve answer any questions about the multifamily.
Thank you, Mayor Williams, and ladies and gentlemen of council. I represent Alley Capital. We're a Greenville-based development company, do single-family, multifamily, hospitality in North and South Carolina predominantly. We're pleased to be invited into this broader community by Phil and Realty Link. We've known them for a long while. They do quality work, so when they mentioned they had an opportunity for apartments here, we were thrilled to be able to partner with them and come down here and talk to you folks. What we've got laid out is a 296-unit, 4-story, elevator-served, garden-style apartments, market rate. Okay, and I guess the closest comp I could point you to that you'd know would be Ironwood, just down right over here. And as we've worked through design with Realty Link and with Planning Commission, with our team, we've run into two or three small issues that we've requested waivers for that have been included in the most recent Planning Commission action. And they revolve very simply around, we needed to set the buildings back further from the road than the code allowed in order to get sufficient parking for the units. And then because of the narrowness of the whole site, we've had some issues with the landscaping buffers. And so we've worked out with them a couple of waivers around, we can't landscape islands that are over a utility easement, even though we could, but they didn't, the planning department didn't want that, which is fine with us. But we also have a strip of land, we're adjacent to the school, behind the parking and off the easement that we will landscape and we will put a fence in. So I think we've kind of resolved everything with the Planning Commission. We just wanted to be sure there weren't any further questions here.
I personally don't have any questions about multifamily. I don't know if anyone else does.
Well, yeah, I kind of got a question. I think what we looked at originally was more single-family homes. Maybe I'm confused, but looking at your picture here, which ones are the apartments? Which ones are the townhomes?
The apartments, do you see on the?
Is it one with all the parking spaces?
Yes, sir.
The section behind the park.
Okay.
Adjacent to the school.
So let me ask you this. I'm counting at least 12 units. How many apartments will each unit house?
They vary, but there's 296 units total.
Okay, but that's divided through the 12 buildings, so each
Correct.
one would be...
They're different sizes, but yes, and then a really, really nice clubhouse, pool amenity, all the amenities you want.
Okay, and then the townhomes, that's the ones, I guess...
Straight across.
Straight across. Where will their parking be, or do they have garages built in? Because I don't see a lot of parking there.
Each unit or building has 2 parking garages. We have not provided for on-street parking or visitor parking yet. and I will do that. We're now at the point where we've secured our equity, we're secured our loans, and now it's time to finalize the permits on that side of the road and true it up, so to speak.
Right, so you said there's parking garages, or?
Each one of those buildings comprises 2 units, one above, 2 stories, and then 2 stories.
Okay.
So you have 2 garages underneath, one for each unit.
Oh, okay, so it's actually garages, it's not like a parking garage, it's an actual
That's
garage
absolutely correct.
for each unit. That's on the townhomes, because I didn't see any parking there. So 1 garage per unit?
Historically, we've always provided for another 1.5 parking spaces per unit. So they'll average out, including the garage, about 2.5 spaces per unit.
Is that going to be enough, or is that going to have to, or are they going to have to do on-road parking? I mean, for instance, I have a car, my wife has a car, but if they only have 1 space, that's really my concern. Are they parking on the street, or are these 2-car garages for each unit?
Each unit would have 2.5 parking spaces, 1.5 on average outside the unit, 1 inside the unit, as being a 1-car garage.
So, but that half is on the street.
Yeah,
That's what
I
I'm
think
asking.
on the packet I gave you, there should be, at the very end is a townhome section.
Let's see.
I apologize if it's not on there, but that should help you understand kind of what we're.
It's on a slab at the building, or is it actually on the street? That's what he's asking, I think.
Yeah, I mean.
Right?
Yeah, because I mean, if it
must
I understand the math, and it's 1.5 or 2.5, but there's no such thing as half a car.
No, so if you had 10 units, you'd
like
have
this?
15 parking places.
This piece like a part of the.
It's not on there, Mayor. I apologize. I thought the floor plan was part of the package.
Yeah, I think.
I apologize.
Are these,
Councilman?
Are these the apartments?
Those are the townhomes. The 4-story building is the townhomes.
Right here, Eric. Here's the last piece. Yeah.
I apologize. I thought the floor plan was part of the package. Those are townhomes.
Those are the townhomes.
Yes, sir.
So it looks like, according to this drawing, there's 5 units, and they're all 4 stories each?
Yes, sir.
And you would have a 1-car garage for each one.
Correct.
So
And then space for 1.5 cars.
I don't know where the half car goes, but the space would be on the street, though.
That's correct.
Which I guess that's not uncommon with some of the neighborhoods we have around here. I mean,
Is each townhome like this, how many families? 4? Or would like,
There's 2 units. The lower level is 2 floors, and the upper level is 2 floors.
oh, okay.
So it's actually more like a condominium style, at least on the top. Is that fair to say?
That's correct. It's similar to a condominium style
So-
that you see in urban environments.
all right, so I'm confused again. So is this 10 families, or is this 5?
10.
And we have a 1-car garage for 10 families under each?
No.
2 1-car garages?
For every unit, there's a garage.
Okay. So basically, you got 2 spaces at the bottom, one
Yes,
for
sir.
family A, one for family B. So there's 10 garage doors on each unit.
At the back.
Okay.
So unlike a Northern Virginia style townhome where you've got a garage and then you've got the same dwelling above that garage, they've got a modified version of that where they've got
Okay.
the garage, 1 unit, and then you're going to have to go up to a higher level for the next unit. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I mean, as you can tell from the elevations of the single family and the townhomes, this is a very nice product.
It's
not-
very nice. And I don't know, maybe I'm the weird one here. I think it's a very nice product, and I like the fact that it is a mixed-use development. You know, the apartments are what I worry about, not so much the townhomes, because, you know, we have many apartments here that were built very nicely and they've run down over the years, and that's my fear.
One of the modern ways of designing communities now
Right.
is you do a garden style, which is what Steve is working towards, and those are limited to 1 and 2 bedrooms.
Right.
And then the townhomes and the single-family rentals are 3 and 4 bedrooms. So what you do is you create a whole environment. Neighborhood rental is new, but we go after the top 30% of wage earners. We don't go after the lower. It's not that we're discriminatory. Everybody finds their place in the world. And then we maintain the entirety of the development. When we sign a lease with a tenant, they have no option but to allow us to maintain all the yards, all the landscape, and the shutters, the roof, everything that's part of that component is built into the lease.
Now, the single-family homes, I know there was some discussion a few weeks ago about wanting all that to be one lot. Now, is this going to be individual lots where, you know, I can come in and say, I want to buy this house, this is my house, or are we still, you know, that was brought up a few weeks ago and we discussed it briefly?
The issue you get into having multiple lots really is more of a lender issue, because the lender has to record 40, say it's 40 houses, it's actually 34.
Okay.
If you have 34 different lots, then the lender has to record 34 different mortgages, 34 different title examinations, 34 different environmental reports to make one loan, essentially. So that's why everything's on one plat. It's more of a simplicity with the lender than anything.
So, I mean, the single-family homes would not be for sale. They're going to be rentals.
Well, the townhomes aren't
We
either.
would,
Well, no, I know.
if we sold them, we would come back, ask for a plat to be approved. If it's approved, then we would sell the homes at that point. But it's really more of a lender issue than my issue.
Okay.
So everything is rental in here, the townhomes, apartment, and the single.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, talk to me about the, I guess my question is, what's changed since March? So why are you now looking at, educate me on what your thinking is, because you're throwing me here.
Nothing's changed in my world. One of my team members failed to mention to planning that it was a rental product and not a for sale product. Mm-hmm. And I actually went by your office and talking to Tommy. He goes, well, if it's a for rental product, you can't do it on multiple plats. It has to be one plat. So that started the ball over again.
I guess, you know, and I'm gonna pontificate here for a little bit, okay? So my issue, and I haven't made a decision on this, so just though you think I may be going down a route, I'm just want to get this out. So my issue is I value ownership of residents, just me personally, and our town, nor I think our community has. So I guess I'm struggling with this whole build-to-rent development, and I went on the line. I have 5 articles here, and they're not in any kind of order, and I'm going to do this as much for council as anybody, because I just want to educate people, both good and bad. You know, this is a mixed use called Harmon Fox Bank, which is basically down in Monk's Corner, and it's this build-to-rent is similar to like a Hammond's Ferry would be the closest thing. Very nice. It's the first build-to-rent community in Charleston. A build-to-rent home makes a lot of sense for young couples and baby boomers. For the price of what an apartment would cost, they can get the extra space, the yard, and get that feeling of home ownership. This is a $3 trillion business, okay? So this trend is a $3 trillion business. This is a big deal. Built-to-rent homes and communities become very popular in the Sun Belt and the Southeast as people migrated from the north. You got companies like Toll Brothers, Miami-based Leonard Corp, Crescent Communities, and Pretim. They're New York-based investment firms. So these investment firms are getting into this. As home values appreciate it, for it becomes more misuse, so the build-to-rent communities have become very attractive. This is an article about Northmark, And Northmark is a build-to-rent group. They marketed and sold 3 build-to-rent communities for more than $90 million. This was in back in November 2021. One of the communities they sold was the Commons, Sweetwater Commons here in North Augusta. Okay, that is the only build-to-rent community we have in North Augusta, and it was sold to a company called Adventure. And if you go by there today, you'll see it doesn't say Sweetwater Commons, it says LEO and Augusta Commons. So, and they bought that because this is their first forte into the build-to-rent market. Anyway, so that's that. Then there's a company called American Home for Rent. Now they're California-based, and they have gotten into a lot of issues in Somerville. They're trying to build 3 rental homes there, and the citizens are very upset about it. They've had a lot of complaints. This is just a company that has not done a good job. But anyway, an article there. And then this is another article called The Built for Rent Land Rush is Intensifying. And the hottest thing in residential development is built-for-rent, single-family communities. Investors seeking yield are having difficulty finding enough homes to buy, so they're shifting more attention to ground-up development of brand-new single-family neighborhoods. So I'm saying all that to say is this is a big trend, and I guess my question for you is one of the things that these places that have been very successful, they have very nice amenities, okay?
Right.
So I guess what I'm wondering is, and I look at the Sweetwater, I will tell you, for me personally, Sweetwater Commons is a different animal than your project, okay? Location just being one of them. And they have a lot of amenities. They have a community garden, they have a nice pool and clubhouse, they've got a huge playground, they've got nice paths. So I guess my question to you is, the park is the only amenity that I see. So what exactly will be in that park? What does that look like? Give me an idea what that looks like, if you have an idea.
Well, the number one amenity that most people look for is walking trails and dog parks and parks themselves.
Okay.
We have not shown yet the walking trails that would tie into the park area, and along with Steve's, his also would have walking trails.
Okay. Playground or?
Yeah, we definitely could do a playground and a dog park. Those things are important also. But I do want to make a point, and I appreciate your background search. There's a percentage of the population that just simply do not want to own a home.
Sure.
They either want to live in that area 2 or 3 years. If they're happy there, they stay there. And so I think the evolution of build-to-rent neighborhoods is to satisfy that segment of the population. A lot of people, when they choose to live in a home versus a garden-style apartment or multifamily, it's because they have children, they have dogs, cats, whatever it may be. But once they move there, they take a lot of pride in ownership, no different than they would if they owned a home. So that's why you're seeing a lot of people gravitate towards that business model, because it's a happier consumer. They plant gardens, they get to know their neighbors. The average person that stays in a build-to-rent home is there 7 years. Not many people will stay in a multifamily apartment for 7 years.
No, I'm with you about that. Let me ask this. So will Realty Link own this, or are you going to be selling this to some company like these ones I mentioned?
We sell very little nowadays. I'm not going to say it would never be sold, but yes, our intentions, this is one of...
How many real build-to-rent communities are you managing now?
We have none today.
This will be your first one, okay.
We have one under construction in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Okay.
And we had one in Fayetteville, North Carolina, but it kind of melted down. Let me think. We got 6 offices, only run one.
Okay. So educate me in this. If
Emerson, Indiana.
Okay.
There's probably a half a dozen.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So if each of these sections, you've got the townhomes is going to be a piece, you got the single families is going to be a piece. So on those two, the townhomes will be platted as one, the single family will be platted as one.
Yes, sir.
Okay. is it possible that you could, right now, you are going to be the one running both those, but if you wanted at some point down the road, you could sell the townhomes to ABC, and then the single family come in and handle it for DEF. So we could have two companies, so we could theoretically have 3 to 4 companies managing the entire bluegrass, a certain part, whether it's, right?
That's exactly accurate.
Okay.
I mean, odds are the 34 homes would go with the townhomes because there is a scale associated with rental products.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an economy of scale, so to speak. The 34 homes by themselves is not really large enough without the townhomes. But it doesn't mean that it couldn't happen.
So this is your first one, you're building another one. So your intention is this is an area of your business model that you are looking to build, invest, and maintain this is your
Yes, sir. I
is your
think we
goal?
have roughly about 1,000 units in progress
Okay.
nationwide.
Okay. Let's see. And what's your target audience going to be, do you think? 'Cause how are you?
Well, the
looking at
Millennium
that?
is the easy target because they,
Who?
the Millennium.
Millennials, okay.
The one that I feel for the most is the one that have been credit impaired either through the last recession or COVID or whatever. You know, those people have a stigma attached to them. If they go to a normal neighborhood and they want to rent a house, everybody beside them owns their home, so there's a stigma attached. So this does eliminate a little bit of that. If you decide to live there, you're equal to your neighbor. You also have the elderly population where all their asset, the cash is dwindled down. The only asset they have is their home. So sometimes they choose to sell, and they spend a couple years in a rental product before they go to that next chapter. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why this product has become popular.
Right.
Those are the 3 that most people point at.
On a side note, are y'all still going to do the commercial and professional property? Is that still going to be a component of it? The commercial and professional
Oh, yeah.
piece?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You just didn't have that listed here, so that's why I just was
Yeah,
wondering.
we hadn't changed that.
Okay.
The senior living too, I noticed that's on there. Is this up?
We have a couple of senior living companies that we're in negotiation with.
Okay, so that wouldn't be operated by y'all, that would be, you would be the landlords more or less?
We would probably sell the land, to be honest, and let somebody do it right. It's not our business model.
I have a comment. Excuse me. My son lives in Pennsylvania, and he lives in a complex that you have just described, upscale apartment living. And there are probably 50 buildings on this large acreage of land. It has excellent amenities in the apartment, excellent amenities for that community, including walking trail, including huge swimming pools, playground area. He fits the mold exactly what you're talking about. He's 35 years old. He doesn't want to own a home.
I see it every day.
He said, Dad, why should I buy a house when I can rent? If it breaks, I just call them. I don't have to come out of pocket with money. That's his philosophy.
Right.
And I said, whatever you want to do, you're 35 years old. That's your call.
I have a 35-year-old too like that.
But it's a great opportunity for those who do not want to maintain homes nor landscaping. The whole complex is landscaped beautifully and maintained.
Oh, I promise you we'll do a good job.
But that's a plus for it, in my mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just had a couple comments. Maybe I didn't hear you, but this structure and building over there in the multi-purpose section, I guess that's a clubhouse and pool and all kinds of things up there.
You're talking about the apartments.
That's for the
now.
apartments.
Yeah, apartments.
The clubhouse is, no, that's the old one. That's not our current site plan.
Okay.
So Phil brought I've got our site plan.
Okay.
You want to see it? We have a big clubhouse. We have a pool complex.
Is it off in the corner in the new plan?
No, it's in the center of the project.
It's in the center of the project.
That-
That'd be nice to see. I'm sorry. Another question, just observation for the rest of the public here, our council. You see where we were supposed to have that road with connectivity, right? Mm-hmm. You see what happened there when we gave them the opportunity not to have the connectivity. They gave us 2 new buildings. Just my observation point, that's all. I like that design much better.
This is the current design. The clubhouse is right here. This is the pool and the minute area, fire pit. We got a dog park, we got a playground. You know, we're gonna link to their trails. This building overlooks their park.
That looks much better.
But that's the apartments.
This is the apartments.
Yeah, okay. That's totally different than.
That.
I didn't have his copy. I didn't have this in my system.
It's okay, but that looks much
No,
better.
I mean, that
It is
looks,
much better.
Yeah, I see that working a lot better.
yeah, because I mean, I'm looking at this one, like I said, there's like 12 different units on here where I only
Sorry
see.
for the confusion. I didn't catch that was
Yeah.
This is the current site plan.
Okay.
I'll leave it with you.
Yeah, that's much,
Okay,
much
yeah, that
better.
looks much better.
Though, is that only for the apartment people living? What about the
This is, yeah.
townhomes? Will they not have like a swimming pool or some other things, or?
That's what I'm saying, the amenities, basically their amenities is gonna be a park with a pool.
Yeah, it's
For
not really
the-
enough units to do a very good pool system. It's not quite large enough.
But they wouldn't be able to walk over and use that pool.
No, ma'am.
Now, would that be a problem with people? I mean, I can't imagine.
I mean, the pool is fenced and it'll have a gate that'll have codes
Yeah, I know it would, but that looks
for
like
the
that.
apartment renters.
I guess this is just food for thought. I mean, I like that plan a lot better. I think you're bringing a good product, you know, and I keep forgetting, you know, I've got Kevin, Kelsey and Katie are the same age. We got 20, fixing to be 21-year-old kids in college, and I think, they get out, this is probably what they're going to want to do. I guess we're just not used to it in North Augusta, Our thing's always been you buy a house, with a white picket fence and 2.5 kids and whatever else. I mean, I really like the idea. The only thing I'm worried about, because there's not, this is fairly new, and I'm just going to caution, I think it's great for now, but what's going to happen, say, in 30 years if interest rates are back down at 2%? Is this going to become a rundown facility? And that's the only thing. I know you can't predict it, and I know you could always sell it, and it seems like, especially apartments, I'm not so sure about the townhomes because we just don't have anything to compare it to, but it seems like, apartments get built, they're very nice for 8, 10, 15 years, and then the next buyer doesn't care, and they go downhill. That's the only thing, when not having the ownership. I think the houses, if they were homeowners, and I understand, the model, but I'm hoping one keeps the other in check.
I think the mayor, with his list of buyers, kind of tells you, if we chose to sell, it's your institutional type buyer. They look at this product the same as they look at this product. There's not a difference. Both are rental products. Both have pluses and negatives. The positive is they stay there a longer period of time. The negative is it's more maintenance. There's more units. There's more air conditioning, more windows. So you have a little bit more maintenance. But as far as the exterior, you would never know it if you drive by. I mean, if we saw it to Greystar or America's Homes or whoever, I mean, they're going to do a first-class job of maintaining the facility because they got a big investment in it.
And you'll have an on-site person handling the town?
Probably will. We'll probably have a model and operate that as a leasing office.
We'll have a full presence.
I'm not worried about the multifamily. I'm at the builder rate, not concerned. So, I mean, because what we don't want is a situation where we have apartment complex, even though I'm talking about an apartment, it's the same concern I have as far as, somebody rents one of these and there's a problem, they don't get issues, people don't return calls, and next thing you know, this is really something we have never done. So if we go down this road, I know we have Sweetwater Commons, but I'm telling you, that's different to me. This is a mixed use. We've never done anything like this. And, I have concerns. I will be frank with you. I made my decision, but I have concerns.
And that's why I'm here, to hopefully make those concerns.
I do like the fact that, well, like I said, you're a businessman. If you can make more money selling it, you're going to sell it. So you're going to tell me what I want to do.
We'll probably have 2 model homes, and I think those are probably be built by Stanley Martin. That's who we're in negotiation with.
By who?
Stanley Martin. They have a couple neighborhoods in this area. And they do a good job. They, these real crown molding and real granite, and I think we're pretty close to finalizing it with them. The way I pro forma it is 2 model homes for the single family and 1 townhome unit, which is below and above. And both of those would probably operate as leasing offices.
And of course, you have no idea what market rates would be, what you would be charging based on them yet.
Well, the single family homes are, they're probably in the $3,000 to $4,000 a month range.
So what you're going to be in, historically, from what I've been reading, those rentals, if anything, of course, we're in a different environment right now, but like Eric said, well, the point is, there's such a demand for them. So the concern, what we don't want is the rentals to start getting down so low that we don't have the type, who we want in them.
If I was building 150 single-family homes, I would probably look at that product differently. Right. But if you're only doing 34 homes, I think you try to capture a more affluent customer that doesn't mind. They may be working, at the cybersecurity in Augusta. Income's not an issue. They don't know how long they'll be in Augusta or North Augusta.
And you guys have expressed all of my concerns. I think the thing I'm struggling with is the same thing everybody else is struggling with. I didn't like the idea of a bunch of apartments going down there, but I thought if we were going to put them anywhere in North Augusta, that was a pretty good place. Ingress, egress is good. It's in an area that needs some economic development attention. But I was offsetting some of the concerns I had with sticking a big multifamily facility down there with, whoever said it, with kind of counterbalancing that with some owner-occupied homes. And I understand the market. I get that part of it. I do. It's not what I thought going in, and I've got to wrap my head around that and go through the same thought process all of y'all are going. I think that's I thought we were going to have a true mixed use with some multifamily, some senior living, some commercial, and some owner occupied. And now it turns out that we're really just going to have a fancy big apartment complex with some single family apartments, which may not be a bad thing. Again, I haven't made my mind up, but I'm struggling with the same thing. I'm just verbalizing the fact that I'm struggling and have the same questions that everybody else has.
I think the second parcel, and I don't want to make promises just to make everybody feel good, but the second parcel between Buena Vista and the golf course is also about 50 acres. And because of the topography there, I think you have to look at more estate-type homes. And of course, the view of the golf course and everything else warrants that too. But like I said, I don't want to promise you something that...
So what's going to be first? What's the first, if this is approved, what's the first, the multifamily?
I usually like to go first, but I really don't know. It's... depends on permits, equity, loans.
But it's not going to be simultaneously. It's going to be...
No, I will say this, for what it's worth. We plan on grading the entire site at one time and putting in the road system and all that in, so that if he starts ahead of me and all that, everything's in place. He's not waiting on me to build a road or whatever.
All right. And you've answered this one time, but just answer it to me one more time. What has changed since March when we approved the general development plan?
Mr. Mayor.
It should always have been part of build to rent, is what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir. Robert, I'm not pointing fingers here, and I have said it. Robert didn't communicate that very well with planning.
Is he still with you?
Actually, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to have Tommy Paradise, our planning director, make a few comments.
Sure.
Tommy you were there.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, he's brought up some things this evening that I was unaware of and is inconsistent with where the planning department's been directed to go with this. We had, and was single-family attached was approved. Single-family attached has land underneath it, and each one is platted individually. Now, they came back and said, we want to do single-family attached, but on one lot. Okay, that makes it multifamily, and that makes it, needed to come back to y'all. So that's what we did.
That's right.
Now, as I listen before council, you'll have one dwelling on top of another dwelling.
That's always been the same, Tommy.
No, that's not been the way that it's been described to me. There's not any land that's going with it, so it's not single-family attached. They're not townhomes, the way I define townhomes. They're the same as a condominium. And instead of single-family attached, to meet the zoning ordinance, we would basically, it could be condos, it would be a multifamily instead of single-family attached. And I just thought that was something that y'all need to be aware of, because this whole process, I've been under the impression, either right or wrong, and maybe I've missed it somewhere, that these were side-by-side dwelling units, and that if they were to be disposed of, they could theoretically be subdivided and sold in different lots.
So basically, there's going to be, there will be 37 detached for sure. The question, what you're bringing up, Tommy, is talking about the townhomes that you think are more like condominiums.
Those would not be single-family attached.
Right.
Those would be multifamily.
Yeah, that's kind of what, that's what the picture was, yeah. Okay.
I've never described them, and I've only met with you the one time, but I don't remember. But I never described them as single family. I always described them as townhomes.
In the information that the city received in your general development plan and on your diagrams, they're listed as single-family attached.
I can only look at what I got in front of me. They say townhomes. But I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm just...
If you look at, this is the diagram that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And on there it calls them single-family attached. Now, there's nothing to say that council couldn't approve what they're requesting. I'm not trying to, but I just want council to understand that this is a little bit different than what the planning commission heard and what we've been working with as far as the planning department goes.
Yeah, I see that here, yeah. I got you. Thanks for that clarification. Any other questions, Tommy, or for these gentlemen? I have good eyes, these things are so small. I like this big one he gave us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Any other questions for this gentleman at this point?
Paradise, if you could just get that updated layout, that would be wonderful to have prior to next week.
Which updated layout?
The layout he just showed us.
This one?
No, the one he just showed us there.
Oh.
Well, that's on the apartments. You're talking about the apartments.
Yeah,
only.
the apartments.
That's all you care about. He's talking about something different.
I mean, I'd like to have that part of
You
our
want me-
package.
Would you prefer me to come back next week and show a better description on the townhomes with parking and update his as well?
I would think it'd be to your advantage.
Yep.
Come back with a better description of exactly what you're gonna put there, so that everybody on this council is very clear of what you're gonna put. Because right
Okay.
now, it sounds there's a lot of confusion on the description of what our single family or detached and so forth. It sounds like there's confusion there. So I would advise that you come back and clarify that the best you can, because there's just questions on council, and I think you'd help your,
I'll do that.
help it
Said
for
that
you.
very well. Thank you, Mr. McGee.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it, Phil.
All right, Mr. Mayor and Council, I'll press from here if that's okay for
go.
item number 9 under city property, resolution number 2022-32, authorizing the removal of artifacts from the site of the future public safety headquarters on Georgia Avenue to the Arts and Heritage Center in North Augusta. So ultimately, what you have before you is a resolution that would allow for the Arts and Heritage Center and folks associated with the Arts and Heritage Center to be able to basically pry off parts of the building that they would like to reuse for either historic or artistic purposes. They would be required to sign a liability waiver. They would be given 3 weeks from the time of notice to proceed to be able to harvest whatever they would like off of the buildings, at which point in time the city would move forward on a demolition action. We have completed our asbestos remediation of those 2 facilities. I've been told that they have now been cleared of asbestos, but I still have to require a hard copy report before I can allow individuals to go into or around the facilities to go ahead and pull those off. And so ultimately, this is a last gesture for kind of the artistic community and for the preservation community to pull things of interest off of that, off those properties for them to be able to restore to whatever desire they have.
Very good.
Only question I have, and I think it's a great idea, I'm glad they're having access to it, but I'm assuming someone on staff will be there kind of supervising what they're doing. Just, I know they're going to have to give records and pictures and all that, but will we have somebody kind of?
We'll work it out with Mary Ann Bigger and I have been in dialogue about the access to the site. It would be beneficial to have it as one collective group as opposed to just random people showing up there and prying boards off the buildings.
That's what I'm getting to.
Yes, I agree. So
Okay.
we'll work that coordination directly with the Arts and Heritage Center.
Thank you.
Subject to any other questions, I'll move on to the next item.
Keep on going.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and move. These next 2 will be covered by Rachel and Rick as well. So items 10 and 11 are both under PRT. So Rachel, I'll send it to you.
Thank you. We're back in front of you with a resolution to purchase the mobile stage. If you remember, I guess it's been a few weeks, a couple months ago, we made a request to the state to spend state accommodations tax funding after the time which we should have spent it. They granted us that approval. So what we've done is prepare a resolution that shows in total where all of the funding is coming from for this particular purchase. I do believe you have at your seat an updated, I was looking at the wrong one, an updated resolution from what was originally included within your packet. But on the second page, it includes a breakout of all of the individual sources of where the funding is going to come from. Primarily, it comes from accommodations tax funding. We did also receive a grant from Aiken County, and then a small portion of the total will come from our capital improvements fund. Within this, we have just over $8,000 that actually was proceeds from the first concert that we held at the amphitheater about a year ago. When we had the naming concert, the remainder of it will come from the balance of the capital improvement fund. This is a not to exceed amount. We are estimating the shipping costs. They can't guarantee us the shipping costs, so yeah, we may not receive it for about $6,000. Okay.
Do you remember the grant amount from Aiken County?
$16,253.
From Aiken County, yeah, 16.
It's on page.
Yeah.
On this piece. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
in-
So we knew this was coming because we kind of did this all in study sessions. We're just formalizing now, finally, the resolution.
Yeah, that's right.
Very good.
Couple questions for you, please.
Yes, sir.
I looked at the website and tried to get in my mind what the stage would look like. I believe it is hydraulic, as far as moving the stage in and out. And my main question is, were we able to get electrical outlets that will serve this without having drop cords run on the amphitheater? No? No, I don't. Okay. About what kind of amps would this thing pull? You have any idea, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I did some, before the amphitheater was built, you know, we were talking with George and some of the guys that put on the stuff. I mean, generally, that equipment doesn't pull a whole lot, you know, and also all your lights, I'm assuming, are LED on these. So that's going to make the power consumption very low. I wouldn't imagine it pulls more than probably 30 amps. I mean, you know, an amplifier doesn't pull that much. So really the only power it's consuming would be the lights once it's set up.
Correct, because, I mean, we're not providing the sound, we're just providing the stage. And we would still be contracting sound out. And when we were looking at these stages, needless to say, the industry standard was the stage line SL100, which we started out. And
I'm glad you upgraded.
Well, we actually went to our local guy that's been producing the Jack-O-Lantern Jubilee for the last 8 years, and discovered that this Euro stage being manufactured over in the UK was way less expensive than what you were going to pay for the stage line SL100, which was coming out of Canada, and that was the reason why and that's what he's going to. And it's also a lighter stage. The SL100 from Canada was like over 9,000 pounds, and this stage is more in the 5,000 to 6,000 range.
Okay.
Rick, I should know this. Will this be stationed strictly at the amphitheater, or is this a mobile? This is mobile. So we can move it where we need to.
Correct.
We would use it for the Jack-O-Lantern Jubilee downtown. We'll use it in the amphitheater. We can even rent it if necessary. Perfect. Yes.
Okay, very good, thank you.
What's your delivery date estimate?
His estimate's 6 months.
Okay.
You know, and of course, you know what's going on in the world today, and you've got to ship it from overseas. He says it'll probably be shipped to Savannah. It goes Savannah to Bowling Green, Kentucky, and then that's where it comes back to us. Yes.
Okay.
And then, Rick, just so for citizens to know, we were renting stages before, correct? So
That
this
is,
will, yeah.
yeah, that is correct.
What are the plans for storage when it's not being used?
That's a great question. Yeah, Bob Brooks's garage. Yeah. No.
Well, we're getting plenty of traffic in our neighborhood, so that would work.
You know, I might be looking over there to borrow something from James Sutton in his territory, but we certainly want to keep it out of the weather.
Well, the answer is he doesn't know yet, but he's going to
Thank you.
Oh.
Any other questions for Rick? Okay, thank you, Rick. Jim?
I think Rachel's got the next one as well.
Oh, Rick's got it, okay. Ms. Moody?
Yes, the next one's the resolution related to the 13th Street Bridge de minimis letter. So what we have in the packet following the resolution is a formal letter from the Georgia Department of Transportation where they describe to you precisely what they're asking you for. It was essentially the presentation that was delivered to you tonight. And then they also have some attachments. Again, most of this was delivered to you tonight in just a slightly different format. And so if you all as council review and agree to everything that they presented tonight and what is more formally written in this letter, you all will then approve a resolution to have the mayor to sign, and then we will return this letter.
And the important thing is our staff has looked at it and we know we need this to happen, so, but there's no concern from anybody on staff about the adverse effect. I mean, it's just, we're comfortable, we need to do it.
We are very comfortable. Tom Zeeser, Rick Meyer, and I met with the folks that were here tonight, plus a few more.
Good.
And if you all thought you had questions for them, we definitely did. In fact, we had some of the exact same questions that you all had tonight. So it was important for us to have them come tonight to present so you can hear directly from them. We certainly would not be able to relay it nearly as well. There are a few other things that we've also peaked on, such as will Railroad Avenue stay open underneath the bridge? And we shared with them we've got other economic reasons, such as the green jackets, which is why those things would need to stay open. So we know there are other things to hammer out for them or with them regarding this project, but in general, we're comfortable moving forward.
Well, I just want to thank you for bringing them here, because I think there was a lot of uncertainty. I know I had a couple things in my mind, which I shared tonight, that was very discerning. So I think we all needed, I feel like we're all up to speed now, and I feel good about moving forward now. So thank you
We
for
do
that,
also.
Rachel, bringing all that together.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Rachel. And I'll power through the last four because these are bundled. So items 12, 13, 14, and 15 all are related to the ARPA presentation that we had this evening. So the first one is resolution number 2022-35, a resolution authorizing expenditure of coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, expenditure request number 3. So that's in your packet. That basically shows the amount that we're requesting to be allocated, which is $1,367,000 for the projects that are listed in the Appendix A, which was also part of the presentation this evening. So that list of projects that included the public safety items, the employee incentives, the Greenway Bridge, Smart Cop, the trailer removal at Country Club, and the generators. All those bundled together to be that base or parent resolution. And then the next three resolutions, 13, 14, and 15, are specific based on requirements for bundling. So item 13, which is the Engineering and Public Works, resolution number 2022-36, resolution authorizing funding for the Greenway Bridge at Waterworks. Again, that's a bundle of CPST1 along with the SLURF funds for a max cap of $275K. And again, to reiterate, any money that's not spent on that project will go back into the SLURF fund for future use as council dictates. Then the next resolution would be under public safety, resolution number 2022-37, resolution authorizing funding for public safety 911 dispatch software. That was the Smart Cop software where the majority of that funding would come from CPST2. And I failed to mention in the previous that our strategic intent is to zero out the previous capital project sales tax legacy funds 1 and 2 specifically. And so we're asking for $50,000 out of the SLURF to augment the Smart Cop, which again is a critical concern of public safety and as of mine for 11-year-old dispatch software. Certainly something that I think we need to get after. And lastly, item 15 under Human Resources, resolution number 2022-38, a resolution authorizing funding for supplemental employee compensation through the use of coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, which again is a $500,000 set aside with one-time payments to full-time and part-time employees with the residuals for recruitment and retention programs as dictated through my office. So those four items are together, which were covered under the ARPA presentation, and I will pause for any questions from Mayor and Council.
No, we're good.
Mr. Mayor, I know it was a mega meeting, but that is all that I have from the staff.
No administration reports?
No, sir.
Okay. I just want to thank Jim, Rachel, all the directors. I think tonight and the last 3 or 4 study sessions are exactly the reason why a year ago we decided to change what we were doing. And to be able to have study sessions on all council nights so we could have quality discussions, we could have good information, that our directors can participate, that our citizens are listening, they can hear us. And I think I just commend y'all. Thank you for your efforts, directors, Jim, Rachel, for your efforts in spearheading these twice a month. I think we're seeing real value in it as far as council, I know citizens. So I just want to thank all of y'all. That's why we're doing it, and it's working, so I appreciate that. I've just got two things, two announcements, but anything, Ms. Pat, you got something? Come on now. You sure? Everybody else good? Okay, just going to reiterate, the trash bash at the border is going to be September the 17th. That's Saturday morning before the Georgia-Carolina game, so that's important. And then you want to be there at 8:30 to register to sign up, but we're going to start at 9, so we'll knock it out. And then for folks who live on the Bradley Drive, Bradleyville Road area, Miss Joanna Hooper, who is a volunteer, who's helped us with the last trash bash we had, not trash bash, but the community pickup we had at Carsville. She's hosting an event at 11 o'clock at 586 Bradley Drive. I'll be there for a few minutes to say a few words. Our county councilman, Kelly Mobley, will be there, but there'll be a car show. But the main thing is this is for children to be able to give school supplies out from 12 to 12:30. So I just want to let citizens know if you're in that area, this is a wonderful volunteer who's stepping up to coordinate this, and I think it's wonderful. So that's called the Community Bash. That's at 586 Bradley Drive this Saturday from 11 to 12:30. And with that, that's all I got. Thanks for being here, and we stand adjourned.